say I'll never change. Just to go around town with some gasoline, just trying to bomb a flame. Gonna burn the whole place down. And how do you explain ever falling in love with a guy like me in the first place? And turn around and say that I'm the worst thing. I guess I'm the problem. And your mess never do no wrong. If I'm so awful, then why'd you stick around this long? And if it's the whiskey, and why you keep on pulling it off the shelf? You hate that when you look at me, you halfway see yourself. And it got me thinking, if I'm the problem, well, you might be the reason. Try to go our separate ways, and we're back and forth like a swinging door, and tomorrow's like yesterday. Some days better than the night before, and you're back with me again. Then you go and tell your friends that I'm the problem, and your mess never do no wrong. If I'm so awful, then why'd you stick around this long? And if it's the whiskey, why you keep on pulling it off the shelf? You hate that when you look at me, you halfway see yourself. And it got me thinking, if I'm the problem, well, you might be the reason. If I'm such a waste of breath, such a waste of time, why are you on your way to waste another Friday night? If I'm the problem.
What is good, everybody? Man, it is time. It is officially time, man. NFL football is back. Week 1, the Sunday slate is here. We've got teased over the last couple of nights with Thursday night football, Friday night football, all of that good stuff in store. But now is like the real time, man. Those lineups are set. People are ready. Week 1 is here. We're ready to go. Appreciate everybody being in the chat early. Ryan, my guy with the banger intro. Appreciate that. I was in a Morgan Wallen mood this morning. Just felt like football a little bit. I'm not going to lie. So that's kind of like the thing that I'm doing this year, man. Before every Q&A, before every live stream, whatever, I'm going to pick the song of the day, the mood of the day, and make that the intro song. So appreciate you. Mr. Magic in here, he says, yo, how high are you on K9 or too much injury concern? No, I mean, I think he's fine this week. When I look at him in my rankings, I do have him as a top 15 play at the running back position. Should be a pretty decent play for you this week. Probably looking at him as a running back 2. But that's a player that has had some injury concerns over the last couple of years, and he's somebody that I've been a little bit lower on than consensus in my drafts in the preseason process. But all of the preseason stuff is out the door now. You know, it's week 1 now. It's a week-by-week game that we play, matchup-based game that we play. You know, we can be in draft season all year long, but once that first snap happens, all of that pre-draft analysis is out the door, and it's just reactionary analysis trying to figure out what is happening from a week-by-week basis. So we're about that point now. So Ryan says half PPR, start one in the flex spot. You got Tyrone Tracy, Ricky Pearsall, and Travis Hunter. Right now, when I'm looking at my rankings for week 1, in a half PPR league, I guess I have my running back rankings right here. I have Tyrone Tracy currently as my running back 29. When I look at my wide receivers, I have Ricky Pearsall as my wide receiver 34, and I have Travis Hunter as my wide receiver 36. I think if I was going to take the big plays and look at this really constructively from a half PPR lens, I'm probably going to be going with Pearsall and Hunter here. I probably need to start moving Pearsall up a little bit, Hunter up my rankings a little bit. The more and more they keep talking about how they're going to be using him today more offensively than anything, he probably needs to bump up my rankings. So let's go with Hunter and Pearsall. Oh, you said start one in the flex. So let's go with Pearsall then over Hunter. But I do need to bump Hunter up. Kenneth says half PPR in Njoku, Odunze, and Debo. I'm going with Odunze, man. I'm much higher on him than consensus this week. He's a player that I currently have as my wide receiver 28. It's a good matchup against Minnesota. Sportsbooks kind of like him as a big play guy. He's going to be the dude that I end up playing. And Njoku could be a very solid, reliable piece, but the fact that this is a half PPR without a tight end premium, I'm going to go with Odunze as the big play guy this week. Kenneth. Mr. Magic says, should I be worried about Pacheco, or is it all just week 1 fiascos? I'm not going to be too worried about him at this point in time. He looked good in the usage that he got. He just wasn't getting used that much in the game. And I think maybe some of that is because the game plan kind of got thrown out the window early on with Xavier Worthy going down with injury. Also, they were trailing pretty early on. So you're going to have game scripts where Kansas City is not trailing, and they're going to be able to rely on the run game a little bit more, and I think Pacheco will be a little bit more involved. But as far as Pacheco goes, he's a player that I think looked good in the few carries that he had. He just didn't get a ton of them automatically out of the gate based off of that game script. Raul, my guy, he says, good morning, everybody. Long time no see or talk, bro. Yeah, man, it's good to have you back. I've figured I'd see you around these streets again once we got back to redraft season, once we got back to times for these Sunday start sits and some of the other things. I figured we'd see you around, so it's good to see you, man. Hope everything's doing well, and hope everything's going well for you here in your life. But we got a long season ahead of us. Let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can win some fantasy football championships this year, man. So look, while we wait for some of these questions to come in, we are going to be going as long as you guys need, all the way up to game time. If we end a little bit early, we end a little bit early. If the questions aren't coming in as rapidly, then that is what it is. But we are going to be trying to go all the way up till game time if we can. We did just get Ian Rappaport, who did pull up the actives and inactives for today. Obviously week 1, so we're not really looking at a bunch of players that are dealing with injuries right now. However, there's a few interesting ones that I think are worth noting. The first one is 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey. He was added to the injury report on Thursday. Everybody was nervous. Everybody was worried. It felt like deja vu. I still think there should be a tiny bit of worry, but it does say that he will play today versus the Seahawks. He is good to go, and it seems like Christian McCaffrey is going to be at least suiting up here in week 1. Definitely a player to watch. Obviously, if you drafted him, you should have known the inherent risk. This is going to be the roller coaster that you ride with him all year long. We'll see how that goes, but for now, week 1, he's at least suiting up, which is better than what we can say for last year for Christian McCaffrey. Now, the next piece of news, and I see these questions coming in, folks. I'm going to get through these as soon as we get these last little news pieces out of the way. The other one that we need to talk about is Ian Rappaport is saying that Bucs wideout wide receiver Chris Godwin is recovering from his second surgery on his ankle. They're trying to tighten up the hardware. They say that he's going to return to practice soon, and that the projected or the goal for him to target a return in the NFL as far as game action goes is probably week 5 to week 7 is also kind of the range that he's going. So probably going to be the first 6 to 7 weeks, maybe potentially without Chris Godwin here. So that's something to keep an eye on. Darnell Mooney, been suffering a shoulder injury in the preseason, recovering from that. He is inactive today. You have Chris Rodriguez, who had been hyped up a little bit by this Commanders team. They talked about him potentially getting some work. He is a healthy scratch today. He's healthy inactive. So it is going to be Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Austin Eckler. That is the group of guys that is going to go out there right now. So good news for the people who are JCM fans. Good news for the people with Austin Eckler. Chris Rodriguez is inactive as a healthy scratch. And another healthy scratch is Raheem Mostert. So that is kind of the news that we have here today. Other than that, like I said, week 1, not a ton of injuries, not a ton of stuff going on, and we should be fine from there. It is also worth noting one more time, they did say that the plan for the Texans, at least while Joe Mixon is out, is that Nick Chubb is going to be their bell cow. That is what they have said. So let's get into a little bit more of the questions. Don says, start Hendo or Pollard. I do have Henderson higher in my rankings here this week. Assuming you are in a full PPR, I do think Henderson has game-breaking ability, so I would be playing Trevion Henderson. Mr. Magic says Jordan Mason could be the guy. Do you think? I think he is a piece of the offense. Maybe that's not the best answer that you wanted to hear, but I do think Aaron Jones is still going to be involved quite often. I do think Aaron Jones is going to be a receiving back in this offense. I think it's going to be more of a committee than we've seen in years past. Jordan Mason could definitely be a big part of that, a goal line guy, early down guy. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be two players in this backfield that are garnering or gaining most of the touches here. But other than that, Jordan Mason, I think he is a very, very high valuable handcuff if anything ever happens to Aaron Jones. But he should be kind of viewed as a Charbonnet-ish type of guy right away. Raul says Tet McMillan or Kamara in the flex. I would go with Alvin Kamara, assuming it is a full PPR, Raul. I love McMillan right away. I have him as a top 20 wide receiver play, but Kamara's going to be a dominant play this week. His matchup, the game script, it's going to go perfectly for him. I have him as a top 12 running back in my rankings against Arizona this week. Do I start Egbuka, Ridley, or Eckler? Well, I have Egbuka over Ridley in my rankings this week. Just one spot over him. It's a bad matchup for Ridley. And then as far as Eckler, I probably like Eckler more than Egbuka and Ridley. So I would probably be playing Eckler, especially with Rodriguez as the healthy scratch. It's not, giving too much to Eckler, but I think he's going to be used pretty heavily right away. Cole says, Joshua Palmer or Pop Douglas, full PPR. I like Pop Douglas over Joshua Palmer. Josh Palmer to me feels like a big play guy. Pop Douglas feels like he's a guy that can at least see a couple of targets come his way. Probably see a couple receptions. In a full PPR league, he's more reliable, has a safer floor. But Palmer maybe catches one big play. Tough to tell, though. That matchup against Baltimore is fairly tough. But it should be a high-scoring game. I think Pop Douglas is the safer play, though. Mahad says, what are your thoughts on Caleb Johnson? I need running back depth, and this guy is offering Caleb for Ridley or Caleb and JCM for Sutton. I don't like either of those options, honestly. Caleb Johnson, to me, he's a guy that's probably going to get worked in a little bit more over the course of the year. For now, I'm not too excited about him. I don't love the offense in Pittsburgh either. I think it's going to be slow, methodical, not a lot of scoring opportunities. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the arm talent that he had once before. I think it's going to be very slow paced. Ridley this week is going to start off not very high in my rankings because of the matchup with Pat Surtain and the Broncos. But I do think he's going to get better over the course of the year. That said, though, probably not doing either of these. And Sutton, I'm definitely not even considering the Caleb and JCM for Sutton deal in that league. Donnie says, full PPR, flex Ridley, Harvey, Ford, Pearsall, or Hunter. I would go with Ridley over all of these options. When I'm looking at all of them, he is the highest in my rankings. It is a tough matchup with Pat Surtain, but he has the safest projected target share, I think, out of all of these guys. He's the safest projected floor out of all of these guys, and probably still going to see a decent amount of action, even if he's going to be guarded by Surtain. So I would be going with Ridley in week one. If you're looking for a ceiling play, it's Hunter or Pearsall. It's probably the ceiling play out of those guys, but I would still lean Ridley. Raul says, yeah, it's full PPR. Yeah, then I would be going with Alvin Kamara there. Cole says, Jalen Knoll, a potential top waiver add after the week. It's possible. He's definitely a guy that could be on the radar. It depends on how long Christian Kirk is out. If Christian Kirk missed time, Jalen Knoll was always going to be the guy that could step up in the slot role potentially for them. I think Jaden Higgins is also a guy that's definitely going to be on the radar for people if he's not already picked up in your leagues. He's more highly rostered than a guy like Jalen Knoll, but we'll see what happens. I think right now, obviously, just over the last couple of games that we've seen, QJ is going to be a guy that I think a lot of people are targeting off the waiver wire. I also think Hollywood Brown's going to be a guy people are targeting off the waiver wire. So we'll see. If he's a top ad, he's going to have a better game than some of those guys like QJ and Hollywood Brown. Anthony says, Egbuka, Golden, Diggs, pick 2 in half PPR. I would go with Diggs and Egbuka. I think those two are better plays than Golden. I like the fact that Golden has some opportunity right away, but I have Egbuka as my wide receiver 32 in my rankings. I have Diggs as my wide receiver 36 in my rankings, or 37 in my rankings, sorry. So I would be playing those two guys over Golden. Golden is lower than that in my rankings this week. Jack says Marv or Aaron Jones for the flex, full PPR. Good question. In my wide receiver rankings, I have Marvin Harrison Jr. as my wide receiver 19. We did have Kyler Murray. They said that Kyler Murray is dealing with an illness right now, a sickness right now, so he may not be 100%. That's something worth monitoring. Maybe depending on what he's dealing with, you can't really tell if he has like flu-like symptoms, things like that. Maybe a little bit of the deep ball, some of the strength, the arm strength is out of the picture, but we'll see. There's really not enough information on it for me to move him down my rankings, but they did mention that he's dealing with a sickness. So I do have Marvin as my wide receiver 19. I have Aaron Jones as my running back 23. I think the safe play is Aaron Jones, but I would be playing Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he has a higher ceiling, and that matchup against the Saints is, let's just say the Saints are not a desirable matchup for most people because they're likely going to be getting blown out pretty much every game all year long. So I would probably be playing Marvin. Donnie says, appreciate the answer. No problem, man. Appreciate you being here. TNS guy says JSN or Sutton in the flex in a full PPR. Full PPR rankings right now, I have JSN currently sitting as my wide receiver 11 on the week. He is a top 12 play for me at the position. Sutton is my wide receiver 20. Tougher matchup for Sutton against Tennessee, who was very good against the wide receiver position last year. Give me JSN fairly easily with this type of question. Will says, good morning. Good morning to you, Will. He says, start 2 running backs, CMC, Achane, or Connor, excuse me. I'm still playing CMC. CMC, the fact that he's suiting up, he's a top 5 player in my rankings this week. If he's on the football field, you play him. Don't overthink it. I'm going with CMC. For the other 2 guys, it's a little bit closer between Achane and Connor. However, I do like Achane more as a play than Connor. Achane coming in as my running back 9 in full PPR. Connor as my running back 11. There is re-injury risk with both Achane and CMC, but those guys have ceilings that are much higher than a guy like James Conner in week 1. So give me CMC and Achane, but that is a very, very good running back room for you. I would feel comfortable with all of them. And to be honest, depending on who your flex is, Will, I might be trying to get Connor in over my flex and play all 3 of these guys if I could. Anthony says, if Golden and Igbuka both look like top 20 wide receivers, going into the future, would you trade away Lamb? No, I wouldn't. If Golden and Igbuka both look like top 20 going into the future, would you trade away Lamb? No, I still would want Lamb on my team. I think he's a top 5 fantasy wide receiver, and I'm not trading away a top 5 fantasy wide receiver for anything. If they both look top 20, I'd be trying to move one of those guys and keep the one that I like more with Lamb, or just keep all 3 of them and play, 2 of them and then the one in your flex every week. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. Diggs or Ridley is wide receiver 2 today. Derek, I would be playing Ridley over Diggs as my wide receiver 2 today. Both of them I have more as like wide receiver 3 flex plays. So there are some better options than them currently, but I do think that I would be playing Ridley. He is the higher guy in my rankings right now. All right, so we do look like we're caught up a little bit. Let me just check and see if we have any more news that has come in since our last little update. Doesn't seem like anything crazy. Tristan Wirfs is out. They're saying Xavier Hutchinson for the Texans is expected to see some starter snaps today, so he's somebody that could be on the radar for fantasy as far as waiver wires go going into the week. What else we got? Alan Lazard is inactive today. Didn't matter. Nobody should be playing Alan Lazard. Andrew Thomas, left tackle for the Giants, is out, so a little bit tough having that blind side being out, one of your best offensive linemen being out. So those are the only other news. I guess the other news was Travis Hunter cut his dreads. Don't care. But let's go on to Brandon's question. He says, full PPR, pick 2. Mike Evans, Tyreek, BTJ, and London. I'm leaning Evans and Tyreek for consistency and upside. Plus, I'm not sure how DL looks with Penix or BTJ with Travis Hunter. Thoughts? I think that's the exact opposite of what I would be doing, to be honest. Drake London, I have him as my wide receiver 6 in fantasy this week, I would be playing him, no questions asked. How he looked with Penix last year was he was fed and peppered with targets. He's the guy that I'd be playing for sure. Bryant Thomas comes in as my wide receiver 10. Mike Evans is my wide receiver 13, and Tyreek Hill's my wide receiver 14. So I would be going with BTJ and London if it were my team. Those would be the two guys that I would be playing in my lineup, personally. Brandon says, also great to see you again this year, man. Let's go win another chip this year. Hell yeah. I'm glad that you won it last year. Glad that I could be a part of helping you do that. Good to see you as well. And hopefully we can go get another one. That would be fantastic for us. Patrick says Pollard, Odunze, or Jennings for the flex in a PPR league. I like Pollard the most out of all of these options. I think he's the safest play. I think he has a very decent ceiling, especially with end zone opportunities in today's matchup. So give me Pollard here over Odunze and Jennings for the flex. Will the Beast says, thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Connor will be flexing then. Hell yeah. I think he's going to get into the end zone too. He would be a very decent anytime touchdown bet to put onto a parlay for you. Savan says Tucker Kraft or Tyler Warren in full PPR. This week when I'm looking at my tight end rankings in a full PPR format, where are we at? I got them back to back. I have Tyler Warren as my tight end 10, and I have Tucker Kraft as my tight end 11. It is a much tougher matchup for Kraft, so I'm going to go with Warren as a PPR guy. I think he gets more of the receiving work than I think a guy like Kraft is. Kraft is more of a boom bust, touchdown dependent type of guy. Tyler Warren, I think, can be a multiple reception type of guy. Heavy Metal says my guy is panicking about AJ Brown. Wants to give me AJ and Pearsall for Ridley and Odunze. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, I would do that immediately. If he's panicking and he's giving you AJ, I'm taking AJ Brown right away. So I would obviously try and wait until the end of this week to get Ridley and Odunze into your lineups, or at least wait until the games start for Odunze and Ridley. It's tough because you have to wait till tomorrow for Odunze. But then once they start playing and they're locked into your lineup, or the scoring is locked into your lineup, press accept on that one. I'm taking AJ all day long. He's going to have days where he's boom bust. Like that's the thing with this Eagles offense. Like, they're going to be run friendly some days. There's going to be days where they get guys involved. You just take what you can get with it. But I think if Odunze had to hit on the highest level, he would be AJ Brown. And Pearsall and Ridley are somewhat close to me in my rankings. So yeah, just give me AJ Brown, man. Anthony says, I'm weak at running back. Have to start Zach Charbonnet or Braylon Allen. I feel that. I have a league where I'm a little bit weaker at running back too. Zach Charbonnet was on my flex list. I like him more than Braylon Allen week 1. I think both of them are really not high-end plays, but that's fine. You know that. If I'm looking at my rankings right now in full PPR, I have Charbonnet as my running back 35. I have Braylon Allen as my my running back 40. So give me Charbonnet here. I think he can catch some passes out of the backfield and maybe get lucky to get into the end zone. But both of these guys, you're just praying that one of them hits the end zone. Heavy Metal says Egbuka or Henderson in the flex. I would personally go with Henderson, but both of them are fine flex plays for me, but I would go Henderson. Richard says DK, Sutton, or Pollard. You get to pick two of them in PPR. Sutton is definitely going to be the first guy that I'm going to plug in. I think he's the safest of those two plays. So I'm between Pollard and DK. Right now, DK is currently my wide receiver 27, and I have Pollard as my running back 22. I like the matchup better for Tony Pollard. I don't like DK getting shadow coveraged by a guy like Sauce Gardner all day long. Also, I kind of said it earlier, I hate that Steelers offense. I think that Steelers offense is going to be one of the worst in football. So give me Pollard and Sutton here for my two options. How long do you think until we can start Loveland? That's a good question. Let me pull up the Bears schedule, and then I'll kind of give you an idea. Because right now, this week, I have Loveland as my tight end 19. So he's not like super high in my rankings by any means. Next week, they get Detroit. That's tough. Then you get Dallas, Las Vegas. After the bye, it opens up. You get Washington, New Orleans, Baltimore, Cincinnati. It's probably after the bye week. I think you can confidently start throwing him into your lineups probably about week 7-ish range. Week 6, week 7. So probably after the bye week. They have an early bye week in week 5. And then I'd probably be looking at him as more of a consistent starter. But the first couple games, Minnesota, Detroit, on the road in Detroit, like some of those are very tough games. And as a rookie, you got to get acclimated. So give him a month. After the bye week is probably when I'd be looking at it. One more question if you don't mind. Absolutely do not mind at all. Keep throwing those questions in if you have even more of them. I'm happy to answer as many as you guys got. He says Kraft or Kincaid in a PPR. Thanks, man. You're the best. Appreciate you. Kraft over Kincaid for me in my rankings. I have Kraft as my tight end 11. I have Kincaid as my tight end 13. Still don't think Kincaid is going to be in a full-time role, unfortunately, because I do think he's talented. But it is what it is. It is what it is. So give me Kraft this week. Evan says half-point PPR, Keon Coleman or Austin Eckler. Easy Eckler for me here. I think Eckler is going to be used a ton this week. Is Bill RB8 for you this week? He's the RB5 for me. The Bill hype train, the JCM hype train is definitely there. For me, if we said JCM more like running back 38, that's probably where I have him. So yeah, 38-ish. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be the Eckler show in week 1 though. If Bill comes out, though, and starts getting a lot of carries, JCM gets a lot of carries, we're going to be in for a crazy hype train, I think, with JCM. All right, we are caught up. So keep throwing those questions in the chat. We're about 30 minutes into the stream, give or take. So we are about halfway through. However, if the questions are slowing down, if the questions aren't here, then we'll go get ready for the games. We'll go get some food. We'll go do whatever. So throw those questions in the chat if you have them. Happy to answer them. Looks like also minor, maybe Dynasty League inactives for you. Trey Palmer and Jermaine Burton also inactives. Jermaine Burton, it is over, folks. It is over. Eckler or Travis Hunter in a half PPR league. I would go with Eckler, I think, in a half PPR league personally. Chivalry King says Breece Hall or Austin Eckler in the flex standard league, so no points per reception. Also Vikings or Rams defense. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna play Eckler over Breece in a standard league. However, I don't know. It's tough to tell what's gonna happen with Breece Hall and those guys. I think I'm gonna go with Breece over Eckler, but not by a lot. And then for the defense, let's see. Who do I have here? Vikings or Rams. Both of them are top 10 plays for me. I would play the Vikings defense over the Rams, though. I think they put Caleb Williams under some pressure and force a couple turnovers, or just a turnover or something like that. So give me the Vikings defense. Anthony says, thoughts on Drake London versus Tampa today? Have him as a top play at the wide receiver position, a top 5-ish type of ceiling. I think he comes in officially for me as wide receiver 6, but he should be auto started in pretty much every league that you have him. I wouldn't be thinking about Drake London. So yeah, smash him in your lineups, put him in there, make sure that he's playing. Evan says, Ibuka or Aaron Jones? That is a much, much closer question, I think, for me. Ibuka is my wide receiver 32 in my rankings this week. I have Aaron Jones as my running back 23. I think I'm going to go with Aaron Jones there. We can probably project a little bit of a safer floor with him. And both of them probably have similar ceilings if one of them gets into the end zone. So yeah, give me Aaron Jones there. Heavy Metal says, I should get back to work. Thanks, man. No worries, man. Appreciate you even on your company time. Making sure you get in here, get those questions answered, and still get paid to do it. Love to see that. But you have a good day, man. Mahad says, I wanted to ask, what are some running back targets for you if you need a running back depth? I have good wide receivers, probably looking to flip Ridley for someone. Who would you target? I'm so conflicted on starting a Ibuka or Eckler. I like Eckler more than Egbuka. I think Eckler's safe. Also, if you have Eckler, I think he is fine running back depth right now. If I were to move Ridley, I would probably be trying to like move Ridley for like David Montgomery, DeAndre Swift, an Aaron Jones. If you could get one of those guys. Outside of that, maybe like a RJ Harvey or a Javonte Williams, but those players I'm less excited about. Harvey is like a second half of the season pull, I think, for you. But like a David Montgomery would be great running back depth for you. Maybe an ETN, depending on how he does today. Swift. Those would be the guys. I like Eckler, though. Pick 2 for Robo Chris. He says Debo, Downs, and Rome. Give me Rome. Give me... I think I would go Downs over Debo. But it's tough because he's coming off of that hamstring injury. I think I'd go Downs over Debo. But give me Rome and Downs. Rome for sure in the lineup. Will Burton be released at the end of the season? I mean, he might be lucky to make it through the season, but we'll see. They gave him kind of a second chance this offseason, and him starting the year off as a healthy scratch. Mitchell Tinsley, that's a really deep dart throw dynasty name for you guys. He was kind of performing for them in the preseason. Obviously, Andre Yoshavash was a guy that has been very good for them as well. I don't think it's going to work out for Burton, unfortunately. So he's a guy that they may end up moving on from. Should I play Kupp or Olave in the flex today? I got Olave as my wide receiver 35, Cooper Kupp as my wide receiver 44. Don't think Kupp has much left in the tank. Willing to be proven wrong. It's also not a great matchup for him against the Niners, so I would go with Olave. Easier to project a target share. Also, I do project that the Saints are going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to throw the football. A good game script for Olave. He just doesn't have a high ceiling. Full PPR, you got Garrett Wilson or Calvin Ridley in the flex. Give me Garrett Wilson easily. Andre says 1 hour away. Hell yes, we are almost there. Is there a scenario where you see Brees getting traded this season? I think he could get traded this season. I think the perfect fantasy football landing spot for him, and maybe as like a contender in real life, would be if he ends up going to the Washington Commanders and playing the running back position there with Jaden Daniels, in the backfield. I think that would be ideal for him. That would be perfect for fantasy, but we'll see what happens. I think he's definitely a player, though, that could get traded by the trade deadline or early on in the season. He would be one of the few guys that I think could for sure be traded. And if not, he's in a contract year, so at the end of the season, he could go somewhere else. I accidentally hit Josh Allen instead of Jaden Daniels for QB. Did I mess up badly? LOL. Fat finger mistake. No way. I would have had Josh Allen over Jaden Daniels anyways for quarterback. So I think fat finger mistake might have made the right choice for you, actually, Raul. Arnold says DJ Moore, Josh Downs, or Engram in the flex. I'm starting Engram as of right now. I would absolutely be starting DJ Moore. I am significantly higher on DJ Moore than consensus this week. I have him as my wide receiver 17. He is in basically the same tier as like Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Lad McConkey, Marvin Harrison. I would be playing DJ Moore for certain in this group of guys. No problem. Cannon says Matthew Golden or Jawan Jennings. I'm going Golden over Jennings in this scenario. Both of them, though, I kind of have in like that 30 to 40 range. So I would probably be playing Golden. He has a higher ceiling, I think. Anthony says thoughts on trading Golden for the Minnesota running backfield. Was hoping to hold out for a swap for Chase. Am I overvaluing Golden? Swap for Chase, like Chase Brown or Jamar Chase? Because if you think you can get Jamar Chase or Chase Brown for Matthew Golden, I don't believe that is going to happen. I don't think Golden's going to be that good as a rookie that you can swap him for Chase or Chase Brown. Swapping him for the Minnesota backfield, if you need the running back room, I don't hate it. But you might be overvaluing Matthew Golden a little bit. Richard says, how many weeks do you see RJ Harvey taking over as the Broncos running back, one spot from Dobbins? I think it's going to be a committee most of the year, by the way. It's just a matter of RJ Harvey seeing, more carries. But I think it's probably going to be, let's look at their schedule, kind of like what we did with Loveland. Harvey. Let's see. Tennessee, Indianapolis, Los Angeles, Cincinnati, Philly, and then it opens up. Harvey could be like week 6. Week 6 is kind of maybe when we see the switch. At minimum, he's a second half sleeper to where you see it after the bye as we go into the playoffs. But I think it's going to be probably about week 6. What do we got? What games are you predicting to be shootouts? Let's look at the schedule. And I'll tell you the ones that I like the most. I think Tampa, Atlanta is going to be a good one. I also like San Francisco, Seattle. I like Detroit, Green Bay. I like Houston and the Rams. And I like Baltimore and Buffalo. Also that Vikings and Bears game on Monday night. So there's about 6 games that I think can be some pretty high scoring games. That Tampa Bay game, the San Francisco game, the Rams game, the Green Bay Packers game, the Bills game, and the Vikings game. Those would be the ones that I'm looking at. Anthony says Chase Brown. Yeah, I still don't think... Personally, I'm getting way high on Chase Brown. I think Chase Brown's going to end up being like a top 10 running back this year pretty easily with all the work that he's going to get. I have him as going into week 1, I have Chase Brown as a top 6 running back on the week. I have him higher than Derrick Henry. I have him higher than Bucky Irving. I have him higher than Devon Achane, Ashton Genty, Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams. I have him higher than all of those guys right away. That's PPR for the record. Tillman or Downs today? I like Downs over Tillman. Rory says Pollard, Dobbins, Tracy, Sutton in the flex. It's standard scoring. Give me Pollard in standard scoring. Brett, my guy, he says the League FFB commish. Good luck, sir. Appreciate you, man. Good luck to you as well. It all starts today. He says, curious, outside of fantasy football, if you looked, what's your favorite bets on the board? Good question. I really haven't been in the betting market so far this year. Like, I think I told you earlier, Brett, in our group chat, I've been using a lot of my sports betting budget that I had in previous years, and I've put a lot of that into DFS, DraftKings lineups, underdog lineups, things like that. But if I looked at today's bets, let's pull something up real quick. I'm just going to quickly scan for you. I like Tedero McMillan over 4.5 receptions. He would be one that I like. Another player that I'm expecting some big things from in week 1. Maybe not big things, but where the sportsbooks might be lacking a little bit is potentially a guy like Egbuka over 57.5 receiving yards maybe, or you just go with the receptions for Egbuka, which would be over 4.5 as well. So maybe the receptions on both Tedero and Egbuka week 1 would be something that I'd be looking at. That was me just doing it quick though, so don't take that as gospel. He says, what is the actual number of best ball drafts that you were in? Preseason drafts on Underdog, I drafted like 175 or something like that, 180-ish drafts preseason. Actually, it was like 190, I think, when you accounted for some of the rookie and sophomore drafts. DraftKings lineups, I do like 5-ish a week, every week. So probably by the end of the year, we're going to be at, what is that, 18 times 5? I mean, it's almost like another 100 there as well, plus about the 200 that I had. So probably about 300 best ball lineups that I'll have by the end of the season. But I love it, man. I love it. Frizzle says, should I drop Woody Marks to get Kyle Monungai full PPR since Nick Chubb is the bell cow? I wouldn't yet. I wouldn't. And honestly, you might be able to drop him after the games. Let's see what Woody Marks does in his game, and you might be able to drop him since he's on your bench and pick up Monungai if you wanted to. But I would prioritize Marks over Monungai. Sports Spotlight says start 2. You got Keon Coleman, Egbuka, Chuba, Odunze, and McMillan. So Coleman automatically is taken out of this. I would say Odunze is probably taken out of this as well. So I'm between Egbuka, Chuba, and McMillan, and I don't love that I'm telling you to play 2 of the Panthers, but I think I would be playing both of the Panthers with Chuba and Teteroa McMillan. He says, you know, your favorite bets are 2 of my players. I love to hear it. And 300 is diabolical. Honestly, I was shooting for more in the offseason. My plan was to be like 200, 250. I know I kind of got to 200, but yeah, it's a lot. So let's just say a lot of my sports betting budget that I set aside went into a lot of DFS. So it's already wrapped up into DFS stuff, but hopefully, because in some of those tournaments, you can win 10,000, 100,000. I mean, if you win BBM, which is Best Ball Mania, if you win that, like first place gets like $2 million. So, hey, maybe it pays off just as much as a sports bet anyways. We'll see by the end of the year. Let's go to Anthony. He says, what are your thoughts on McCarthy's first start? Yeah, I think it's a tougher matchup. You get Chicago on the road, you know, a division game. It's going to be a little bit of an emotional game, I think, for him because he's from that Chicago, Illinois area, so he's kind of going back home. Obviously, Chicago has a pretty good defense. It's going to be interesting. I think really what I want to see him do is I just want to see him move the offense. I don't want to see a lot of like stall drives. I don't want to see a lot of 3 and outs. I want to see the offense move. Obviously, we're not going to have Jordan Addison, so the offense isn't going to be 100% there right away. But I just kind of want to see him move it. I don't need to see a 4-touchdown game. I don't need to see a 3-touchdown game to start the year. If we could go like 250 yards, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the first one on the road at Chicago and come away with a win, a team win, I'm happy with what we got. Other than that, though, like I don't expect him to go out guns a-blazing right away. I think in my rankings this week, I have McCarthy as my, let's see, I have him as my quarterback 21 on the week, kind of right around Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. So, yeah, I'm not expecting, you know, a barn burner for him, but I just want to see him competently move the offense and keep drives going. So I don't need to see anything crazy. If he turns the football over once, I'm not even mad at him turning the football over. Obviously, we want to clean that up, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, Anthony. I think that's a very realistic expectation for your quarterback's first start, regular season start. Crafter Warren 1.5 tight end premium. I'm going with Tyler Warren. We did have that question earlier. It wasn't a premium, but it's even more Warren in a premium for me. Do we still stash Dylan Sampson? Absolutely. We should still be stashing him. He should be on the back end of your bench. Don't play him. Don't start him tonight if you don't want to. Or don't start him today. I wouldn't be recommending that, but keep him stashed on the bench. Brett says, non-football question. What is your game day routine for Sundays of football? Not too much. I mean, usually my Sunday routines are wake up, get my lineups finalized, get the final information that I need from the injury reports and things like that so I can set up and get ready for the stream. I do the stream with you guys, talk about it, and then about 30 minutes before game time is usually when we're wrapping up the stream so I can have final, last second time to tinker lineups if I want to, because usually what I found is going all the way up to game time, if somebody's a surprise out or something like that, sometimes I get caught out in the blue. I don't have enough time to go check my lineups, so I like to give myself about 30 minutes for that. If my lineups are good, if they're ready to go and I don't need time to tinker, maybe I'll go grab some food, get something for the day. Today I'm kind of thinking about Chipotle for lunch, so that might be what I end up going to do. It's just up the road. Then I come in, I throw on Red Zone on the TV, and then on my iPad, I usually have the Vikings game. So if the Vikings are playing, I have their game on the iPad, and then I have Red Zone on the TV. Sometimes I might swap it if it's a big game. If it's like a mediocre game where the Vikings are playing like a bum team, it's going to be on the iPad. But if it's a big game like this one this week, obviously it's a primetime game. It'll be like Vikings plus on the big screen and then Red Zone on the iPad. But then I do that. I just watch the games, hang out all day. Hang out in the group chat on my phone, talk trash, do all that good stuff. That's kind of my Sunday routine. And then usually my wife has food made for dinner. So lunch, we go pick it up. Dinner, we eat it. Frizzle says, oh, wait, we already got that. Anthony says, Cam Ward versus Denver defense, expectation for the offense. I'm not expecting a lot right away. I think Cam Ward is going to struggle a little bit right out of the gates. If he doesn't, I'll be a little bit surprised. But I have Cam Ward as my... Where is he? I have him as my quarterback 30 on the week. So I have him as like a do not play right away. Brett says to answer Anthony about Cam Ward, to struggle. Yeah, I think he's going to struggle as well. Brett says, what is Judkins worth in redraft league now that he has signed? So he's signed, but he's not on the roster yet. They gave him a 2-game exemption. So we'll see what happens. Even then, he missed a lot of preseason time. He's going to have to come in, get acclimated to the playbook, get in game shape, things like that. It could be a little while until Judkins is actually in game shape and ready to roll and then taking over a backfield. So there's still some hurdles to overcome. The main one was making sure that he gets signed and on the active roster. Like, that's the big one right away. But there's still quite a few hurdles to leap through, I think, for him. If I was trading for Judkins, honestly, I don't think I would be trading for Judkins at this point in time, but I think I would consider I would still have him kind of in that Tyrone Tracy, J.K. Dobbins range of guys right now, honestly. And that's just me being a little passive with it. Bruce City Bob, my guy, he says, Love, May, and Tua, full PBR, super flex. You get to pick 2 of them. I'm going with May and Love. He says also Kraft, Tracy, Golden, PPR, tight end premium. Thanks, bro. I would be going with Tracy Jr. and Kraft, I think, in the tight end premium. So give me Love, May, or is that just one? It's one guy. I think it's one guy. So I'm going to go with Tracy. So Love, May, Tracy. If it's 2 in the back end, it's Tracy and Kraft, but it's Tracy over Kraft for me. Are you pitched? You got to wait till Monday to watch your boys? No, I'm not. Actually, I like the primetime games because selfishly, now you motherfuckers have to watch my Vikings too because you guys won't watch them in general. So you have to watch them on primetime now. So you get to see McCarthy come out here and you have to watch him. So I like that he's on primetime. Anthony says, New England versus Raiders with a lot of stories around it. How do you see that game going for my Patriots? I think you guys are going to win. I've projected you guys to win. In our Pick'em League that we're doing with the subscribers, I have them winning. So spoiler alert, if you guys playing that, you know my pick now. So I have them winning. I think it might be a little bit low scoring. I think it might be a little bit ugly, a little bit of a sloppy game, but we'll see. I think New England's the better team, though. So I like it for your Patriots to win this one and come out 1-0. Go grab Mal. I'm trying to see my boy. Bro, Mal lives in Las Vegas with my mom, bro. What are you talking about? I don't have that man here. Heisenberg says, are we still starting Breece Hall over Tony Pollard today in a PPR league? I still have Breece Hall over Tony Pollard in my rankings, yes. So I would still be playing him over. When will Tyreek be traded? We'll see. We'll see. He's definitely another player, kind of like what we said with Breece Hall, where maybe they're a trade deadline candidate, a guy like that. I think Tyreek could be one of those guys. But I think it depends on how the Dolphins season starts out. Like if Tua gets hurt and things like that, get him out of here. The Dolphins might be in a little bit of a rebuild, so we'll see. I think Mike McDaniel's also on the hot seat, like really sitting on the hot seat. Like that shit is hot right now for him. So we'll see what happens this year. T-Law breakout season begins today. I hope so, because I have him in a league, and I would like for him to break out so I can sell him and get a good, trade compensation for him. Brett says, oh shit, I got it mixed up. Grab your cat, damn it. She was out here. She was sitting on my lap for a little bit. Early on in the stream, she was on my lap, and then she left. Her food dropped. She's on an automatic food bowl, so she went out there and ate some lunch. But yeah, I don't know. She's not here right now. I'm not about to get up and go get her on stream either. So sorry for that. He said recovering from surgery, cat. Yeah. She's fine now, though. It's been a couple weeks, so she's good. Anthony says, any news on the Worthy injury? Yeah, so for whatever reason, people were very upset in the Dynasty Trade Show yesterday because I said at the time of that recording, the news was that it could be a couple of weeks until he was able to play again. But obviously, we were waiting, and it was pending on an MRI. I think right now we're still waiting on an MRI. If I go over to my trusted fantasy football doctors, medicine guys, whatever, the newest news that I have on Xavier Worthy is shoulder dislocation is confirmed. With a dislocated shoulder, depending on the route that they take, it's a minimum of 3 games. If it's a mild dislocation, that would mean he doesn't take surgery. He probably ends up getting it stabilized, things like that. That would be about 3 games if mild. So keep in mind also, the people who got mad in the trade show, I'm just repeating the information from a doctor, an actual doctor. So this ain't me. Also, a moderate injury would be 4 to 6 games missed. And if it is severe enough, if they ended up going into it, things like that, they decide he needs surgery. If it's surgery, it's season ending. So we're looking at best case scenario, 3 games, probably week 4 is when he's back. Moderate would be like week 7, 8, and then severe season ending injury if he needs surgery. So there you go. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the messenger here. But it's unfortunate. Reek back to Chiefs if it's worse. Yeah, I think that would be awesome if he did go back there. Frizzle says, I'm stashing Mason Taylor. Can't wait to see him break out, hopefully. Otherwise, I got to rely on Mark Andrews rest of season. Yeah, I mean, that's a good stash. I don't mind relying on Mark Andrews right now. I still think Mark Andrews is fine. Brett says, I think it's super worrisome that no real news has come up about Worthy as of yet. I don't think it's super worrisome because they were out of the country. They played that game in Brazil. Like, they had to come back to the United States so they could go to a doctor in the US. That's part of the reason why it was delayed, Brett, is like they had to travel home to Kansas City so he could get to doctors in Kansas City. So I wouldn't be too worried about like why it took a day or 2 longer for them to get some information, because they were out of the country in Brazil. So the one thing that I do think is troubling is, like, even if it is a minor injury and it is one that they decide they don't want to go get surgery on, it's at risk of, re-injury at a much higher level than it was pre-injury. So that's something that's a little bit annoying. I think the reality is, like, Xavier Worthy's season is going to be hindered pretty much no matter what. Even if it's a minor injury or a major one, he's injured now pretty much the rest of the year because he's going to be at re-injury risk if they don't elect for surgery. Metcalf, Sutton, Harrison, Judy, and Adams. Which 3 do I start? I like Sutton, I like Harrison, and I like Adams. Those would be the 3 that I am playing if this was my lineup decision. Savon says flex 2, half PPR, Jacoby, Downs, JCM, Pop Douglas. I'm going Jacoby and Downs. Bruce City Bob, ready for Packers versus Lions, my guy? We get some answers today. Go Pack, go, as always. It should be a fun one. I think that'll be a good game in general. Excited to see what happens there. I think the NFC North is starting off really fire. I mean, you get the Packers versus Lions to start. You get the Vikings versus the Bears on primetime. It's going to be a fun game. We'll get to see right away what's going on. My projection is, I think, let me double check to make sure this is what I had chosen. I think the Vikings get the Bears, and I think the Packers get the Lions. So I think the Packers and the Vikings end up starting 1-0, and the Lions and the Bears start 0-1 in the NFC North. That is my predictions. Anthony says Deontay Thornton beat out Besh. Thoughts on him as a waiver wire ad? Mustache player right now. Like, I made a video earlier this week that he was a player that you should be stashing up and picking up before the waivers run going into the weekend. So hopefully people were able to get him and put him on the back end of the roster. He had basically beaten Besh out early preseason. So he's a player that needs to be on rosters right now, in my opinion. Jonathan says JMO or Travis Hunter PPR and better stash player, Jaden Blue or Donta Thornton. I would go JMO over Hunter, and I would probably be picking up Thornton over Blue, but I still think Blue is a decent stash. Rams or Jets D? I like the Rams D more than the Jets D. Brett says risking it for the biscuit today. Think I'm going Flacco against Cincy in a game with a line of 48 instead of Fields against good Pittsburgh defense with a line of 38. I don't know if I love it. I mean, you're in a 6-point passing touchdown league, so it's a little bit different. But I think right now, just looking at my quarterback rankings, I do have Fields as my QB 18, and I have Flacco as QB 19 and a 6-point passing touchdown. So I do like Fields still as the rushing quarterback, but they're back-to-back. So if you're risking it for the biscuit, I don't mind it because they're back-to-back in my rankings. But a normal league, like a 4-point passing touchdown league, I would absolutely be going Fields over Flacco. Started Dak this week. Did I already lose week 1? No, I don't think so. There's a lot of game left to play, so I think you're still fine regardless. Bruce City Bob says, I have it that way as well. Pack and Vikes 1-0. Love to hear it. If you were picking up Thornton, how is $48 fab before preseason, you think? Yeah, this happened in our league, and shocking, to say the least. People were spending fab before the first waiver run even going. It's insane. Crackheads. Void says, start Ertz or Pitts today. In my rankings, I think these guys are fairly close. I have Ertz as my tight end 16. I have Pitts as 17. I would be going with Ertz over Pitts, but the matchup is a little bit better for Pitts if you want to play the matchup game. My flex 3 is looking rough. Would you start Travis Etienne or Rashid Shaheed? I like Etienne more than Shaheed right away. All right, we are getting close to the end here, folks. We are at about an hour. So I am going to call final call. I'm going to give you guys about 5 more minutes of my time, and then we'll kind of start wrapping it up. So get those final questions in if you still have them, and we'll try and get this going because we are approaching game time here very rapidly. Feels like it's just creeping up on us. So let's get those final questions in. We do have a question here from Sam. Oh, wait. He says, thank you, sir. Brett says, what about Amari Cooper for $75 fab, only for him to retire 2 days later? Insane behavior. Insane behavior. Again, what did I say earlier? Crackheads. All right, get those questions in, folks. If you don't have them, that's fine. But get those questions. Looks like we are all out of news for now, too. There are no news updates. So we are right here. Brett says, what's on the dinner menu for Sunday Night Football? Nasima, my wife, she made buffalo chicken sandwiches. So we have like shredded buffalo chicken. We used it for like buffalo chicken dip earlier in the week, but she also got some like sub rolls and put the buffalo chicken on that. So we have like buffalo chicken sandwiches. Jonathan says, I have Thornton available in a 10-team league, but I still have guys like Bateman, Johnston, Palmer, etc. Still grab Thornton if I can. Yeah, I like him more than Palmer. But I like Bateman and Johnston more than Thornton, I think, right now. But that could change if Thornton comes out and has a big game this week. But I like him more than Palmer, for sure. Last one, Ertz, Bateman, or Downs, tight end premium, full PPR. We are back, baby. It's closer. I think it's between Ertz and Downs for me. I'm going to go with Downs, though, I think, to start it off. Who scores a touchdown this week, Golden or Diggs? I think I like Diggs more than Golden as a touchdown scorer. Brett says, is CMC on a snap count that you know of? No, I haven't heard anything about a snap count. I've heard that he's on a full go. I've heard that he's ready to play. So I'm operating as if he is just normally going out there, which is risky, but I think that's just what I'm operating off of. I haven't heard anything. ETN or Aaron Jones? I like Aaron Jones more, Nicole. Tracy or Bill? I like Tyrone Tracy more than Bill. I still think Eckler gets the majority of the workload to start, but Bill gets worked in. Jacob says need 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. Cortland Sutton, Nico Collins, Jerry Jeudy, Marvin Harrison, Tony Pollard, and J.K. Dobbins. Well, the 2 wide receivers, Nico Collins is unquestionably a player that I'm playing. Nico, Sutton, and Marv would be my selections here for the 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. And then Brett says, is it bad that I think Bateman can be a sneaky wide receiver 3 this year? No, I don't think it's bad. In fact, I encourage you guys to go look at the splits last year of like top 24 finishes and top 12 finishes between Bateman and Zay Flowers, and you tell me which one of those guys is the wide receiver 1. I'm not saying Bateman is better than Zay Flowers, but I'm saying the production was close enough that it looks sneaky that Bateman was going like 6 rounds cheaper in drafts than where Zay Flowers was. So I think that's it, folks. That is the last question that I have in here. I will try and sneak in a couple more on the way out as they come, but I do want to let you guys know, as always, you guys can support the show if you want to put plays in over on Underdog. League FFB is the promo code to use. They will give you a gimme pick as well. Also, if I helped you guys today, you spent some time in here, you chatted with us, you asked a question and I answered it, do me a favor, hit the like button for me. We're at 20 likes right now. I'd like to see us trying to get to like 25 or 30 by the time the stream is ended. So if you haven't hit it already, please go hit that like button for me. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel as well, and make sure you go join our free Discord. We are in our Discord 24/7, 365, helping you guys. Dynasty Trade Show stuff in there, redraft stuff, best ball stuff, all that fun stuff. Talking during the games in there. So do that for me. And other than that, let's get these final questions rapid fire out the door and we'll sign off. Nicole says, Diggs or Chubb, give me Diggs. RJ or Tracy, give me Tracy. And Anthony says, thank you, Andrew. Thank you guys. Appreciate all of you guys. Tap that like button, man. Tap that like button on the way out. But nothing else for you guys today. So we will see you on our next episode. Tomorrow we got multiple stuff for you. It's going to be waivers, buy, sell, holds, things like that. I think that are all coming to the channel here in the next couple of days. So we'll see you until then. Good luck in week 1. Hopefully you guys get a win. Peace out.